Hi everybody, I'm Lucinda. I work at Mr. B's Emporium, the fab independent bookshop in Bath, and I'm here to talk about the books that are sitting on my favourite shelf currently. All of the books that I'm talking about today are available on our website for you to purchase, so it's even easier for you to get your hands on these fantastic books. First up is Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. There probably isn't a better time for you to pick up this book, read it, appraise it, and perhaps change your life. It certainly changed mine. Matthew Walker's premise is that sleep is so important that if you are living a healthy lifestyle and you're watching what you eat and you're exercising, but you don't pay attention to how you sleep and how much sleep you're getting, you might as well jump those other two out of the window. The book itself is amazing. It talks about how every living thing has a sleep cycle, which includes viruses, guys. Even viruses sleep. He talks about the background, he also talks about memory formation, he talks about creativity, he talks about the repair processes that are going on whilst you sleep. You never realised that your body was so busy whilst you were getting some shut-eye. Great time to start practicing. Next up, if you are looking for something manageable, something small to get you back into reading, something that's going to transport you to a completely other world, this fantastic little novella is set in modern day India, and in fact it's in translation from Kannadian. We hardly get anything in translation from Indian writers, and this is an absolute gem. It's a modern family fable, and it's looking at how the rise of the middle classes in India and the increase in disposable income that those middle class families have is completely disrupting centuries of family tradition, hierarchies within the family. It's narrated from the point of view of the son of this family. He lives with his sister, his mum, his dad, and his uncle. Tiny, tiny little house, shared space. Everybody's on top of everybody. As a result, they've got a strict set of rules as to how the household operates. The uncle sets up a new business, which is successful, takes off, and the family suddenly find that they've got lots and lots of disposable income. And it's about how that change in their fortunes ends up disrupting everything about the inter-family relationships and also the impact on their local community as well. Next up, Outline by Rachel Cusk. This is the first part in a fantastic trilogy. It's one of the most original things that I've read in a long time. And if you're starved of personal contact at the moment and you feel like having a conversation with somebody, this might just be up your street. The way that the three novels are set out is they are 10 conversations that take place with Rachel Cusk's fictional alter ego, Faith, and they occur at different points in her life. Now, this first one, Outline, is Faith going off to teach creative writing at a residential school in Athens, and we have 10 conversations with random people that she meets whilst she's there. The first one is the guy that she sits next to on the plane. Now, the conversations themselves read really easily and naturally, but they've all been written up sort of through Faith's filter. It's as though you have the luxury of analysing every single aspect of these conversations, and as a result, it's like small talk elevated philosophy. Next up, something that is uplifting and joyful with a backdrop of doom and gloom. Revolution Baby is a story of an extraordinary childhood. It's actually based on Joanna Gruder's own father's upbringing, which was unconventional to say the least. So we have this young boy, our protagonist, who is born to a couple of Polish communist revolutionaries at the tail end of the 1920s, and they're unmarried. They and ah about whether they're even going to have this child. They decide that they are going to have the baby, but their political activism means that they can't be full-time parents. So the baby is immediately palmed off on a couple of married friends in Poland, and for the first 6-7 years of his life, this boy is raised by this couple. After about 6-7 years, his real mother reappears on the scene and announces that it's getting a little bit too dangerous for him to stay in Poland, and so he's coming to Paris with her. His childhood is a succession of him being airlifted into various institutions, dropped in across Europe, Slightly different backstory, modified each time because his parents don't want his identity to be made public. From his point of view, he just sees it as a great adventure. Backdrop is we're in the build-up to the outbreak of the Second World War. I have to say that the writing here is fantastic, and the child's character is genius, and it gets you to see the world through a child's eyes with innocence and joy and adventure rather than doom and gloom. So proper uplifting read. Next up, this is The Lady in the Car with Glasses and a Gun by Sébastien Japrasot, and it's the most amazing piece of French noir. The protagonist is this attractive young woman who is sat behind the wheel of a Thunderbird driving across France towards the coast because she has never seen the sea. As she starts to interact with the outside world, however, you start to realise that the backstory that she's given you doesn't seem to be playing out as far as the rest of the world is concerned, and there might be some things that she's hiding from us. There might be some things that she's actually making up. The gun is going to feature in this novel at some stage. It's fantastic, really atmospheric, really escapist, but it's a reminder that not everybody in the real world is as nice and as innocent as they might seem at first. Finally, what a fantastic time to do a little bit of armchair travelling. This is still in hardback because it only came out at the tail end of last year, and I immediately put it onto my favourite shelf because it's such an extraordinary read. This is a piece of non-fiction, Stories of the Sahara by Sam Mao. Sam Mao was a Chinese woman who was born in 1946. She had wanderlust. Her parents were very understanding. She is allowed to travel outside of China. She goes across to Europe. She ends up in Madrid studying, and she meets a young man there, an engineer, Jose. They get together as a couple, and she tells Jose that she has hankering to be in the desert. So he gets himself a job in the Spanish-controlled Western Sahara, and they move out there. Now, rather than living with the other expats in town and having a strong network, they decide that they're going to live in a hut amongst the local people right on the edge of the desert. Her stories range from out-and-out funny to completely tragic. She is definitely on my list of one of the sort of top 10 fantasy dinner party participants because she's such a tour de force. She calls people out when she sees human rights are being infringed upon. She's a really early adopter of upcycling. This tail end of the 1960s going into the 1970s. She's there picking out tyres from the junkyard, turning them into seats by covering them in fabric. She's proper tour de force and a one-off. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget that all of these books are available on Mr. B's website. Thanks very much. Bye.